have somebody to trust in. So you don't always have to bear everything yourself. You can actually talk to somebody and go, now I feel better, you know, that I've gotten it off my chest.
It's relieving, yeah.
Sure. Well, I have a couple of questions. Now that we've really dived into what good, solid, important, meaningful, supportive relationships are, and some of the ways that they can be damaging when we don't have these things, and friendships can kind of disintegrate when we don't have these things. I've kind of noticed that, Ethan, you're a little bit quiet, and I'm not sure if that's because this is new for you. This is the first time that you've participated. But would you be willing to answer our first question, and then we can have some feedback on what...
Depends on what the question is.
Okay. Our first question is, how can relationships be helpful? Okay, how can relationships be helpful while we're in school? What are your thoughts on that?
What are my thoughts on relationships while we're in school?
How can they be helpful?
Define relationship.
All that stuff.
Thank you, Tony. All this, if a relationship, a friendship, or if you're dating anybody, a dating relationship, your relationship with your mom and dad, your siblings, any relationship, just pick any kind of relationship, and how can that be helpful to us while we're in school?
So you want the positive?
Yes.
Okay. Just to clarify. Well, I think that having good friends around you can really help you while you're in school stay focused on your studies and keep you encouraged, because sometimes when you're going through the motions of school and you get bogged down with your studies or whatnot and you don't feel like you have people around you that support you can just be real with, sometimes it can be overbearing. And so having good relationships with people in your department or with people who believe a lot like you can really help you stay focused and not get sidetracked onto other things or discouraged or lonely. You know, I've been noticing there's this person in the library who is always there by themselves. And it's kind of sad because they're not studying, they're just whatever. And you know, I think relationships really help us to focus.
So they can help us to focus and stay dedicated to our studies and just be on task?
Well, yeah, but in the larger sense in your social life as well. I mean, you got to be balanced and helpful, healthy with, you know, different things.
It was fun. I remember like taking church history and stuff, and a lot of us would get together in a study room and study together and help each other to remember certain facts and dates and names and ideas that the person had, so that we could do well on our exams. And those were really good times. And it kind of relieved the stress of studying for a test.
So they can reduce stress. There's accountability. Great. How can relationships be a hindrance or a distraction while we're in school? You laughed, Ethan.
Oh, now you're wanting the negative.
I'm asking these questions because I want us to learn from each other's responses. Because relationships are really important to anyone, no matter what stage they are in life. But in college, I've often observed that relationships are at the forefront of people's thinking, because some people go to college to find a spouse. Some people go to college to just have fun and party and live it up and be not under their parents' rule anymore. So it's important to kind of examine what relationships mean and what our conceptions are of relationships. But it's also important to kind of examine the pros and the cons and the negatives, the positives of relationships. That's just why I'm asking. Does that make sense?
I would say for us, coming in, you know, being married and then going back to school, your time management has to be, you know, very good, or else you're not going to spend any time with your spouse, because you're going to be doing studying, you're going to go, you know, do all this stuff for school, because school takes up a majority of your time, so you have to make sure that time for your relationship, for, you know, us time is still there, because before we were used to having us time all the time. And, you know, but now it's like, okay, we got to study for this test, we got to study for that test. you know, we're doing this paper or whatever. So
Yeah, I get frustrated
Yeah.
with my fiance because, you know, now I'm not in school anymore. All I do is work. And I get frustrated because I feel like she's so have to stay focused in her master's program, you know, to get all that accomplished, that there's not much time for me. But at the same time, she probably gets frustrated because I'm demanding more time and she needs to have time to get her homework done and,
Right.
and whatnot. So probably my demanding of her time isn't so good for her schoolwork.
right.
So I'm hearing that we have people from all walks when it comes to students. You guys were out of school, you got married, and then you came back to school after being out for a while, and you're out of school and you're here because you have a fiance who's in school. So, and you guys are still currently in your program, you know, straight from high school. So I think that there are perspectives here that would be valuable from many different standpoints. So that's just interesting. I wanted to bring that out. So those of you who weren't thinking about that could kind of keep that in your mind.
And they're probably talking about distractions, you know. I know people who, when I was in school, you know, hey, let's go hang out and do this.
Yeah.
And I know I needed to be doing my homework that night. But they wanted to go play a game or go somewhere and eat or something. And yeah, probably on those occasions should have stayed home and did homework. So I wouldn't be so stressed out trying to get a paper done with less time because I went and did that.
I know what that's like.
Yeah.
It looks like all of you can relate to that.
So they can be a distraction at times.
So for time management and making sure that we do stay focused, which is one of the things Ethan brought out, which is important, friends can kind of keep you accountable. When they're not doing that, then that can be a hindrance and a distraction.
And
It's
there's
like-
got to be a balance too, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's got to be a balance, you know, because you still have to have the social life.
Yes.
Mhm.
You don't want to just put
Yeah.
everything, because then that just
That's
kills you
right.
as a person,
Mhm.
you know. So you've got to have a balance between having time with friends and family and whatnot, but also keeping focused on your studies and what you got to do to graduate.
Let me see. What are some ways that we have found in group to balance the relationships? Your comment was a perfect lead into this question. What are some ways we found to balance?
Scheduling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely looking at your schedule and preparing ahead of time, you know, this, we're gonna set time away, this time spend, you know, for this and that, whatever. But your schedule is huge in order to make sure that you have relationships, but have studies as well.
Well, in addition to knowing it, you also have to stick to it and not
Yeah.
to, oh, I can do that later and procrastinate. You have to stick to it. Okay, this is this time. I'm not doing anything else, and then you will be rewarded later because you know you worked hard during that time when you needed to.
Right.
Yeah.
So don't procrastinate. Keep
Yeah,
a good
don't
schedule.
procrastinate.
Yeah.
Don't procrastinate.
Have we all had experience with procrastination?
Yeah.
I haven't really much here yet. I mean, before here, like when you're in the working atmosphere, yeah, you get into that. But here at school, I've been making sure no, because they keep you busy in the theology department. So you
So that's
procrastinate, your grades are suffering.
What does it do to our relationships when we get bogged down because we procrastinated in school? Why would that be a danger when it comes to relationships?
You become grumpy and nobody wants to deal with you.
I think you summarized that very well. Seriously. Okay.
I've experienced that. My fiance gets grumpy with me sometimes because she procrastinated and didn't get her homework done. And then she gets frustrated when I'm demanding time.
Who else has experienced one of our last questions, and I have a quick activity for us. Has anyone found a person that you have formed a meaningful relationship with that you can go to for support? Tell us about your relationship.
I think we have been a little bit. I mean, we can talk things through, and